Aloha and welcome to Connection to the Cosmos with your host, me, Dr. Lisa Thompson, where I have out of this world conversations with extraordinary people. And today I have on Robin Thomas. So we're going to bring her on in just a moment. But before I do that, just a couple of announcements. If you have not had the opportunity to download my free 20-minute meditative journey to meet your galactic family and guides, make sure you do that on my website, mysticmanta.com. or drlisajthompson.com. And if you are coming to Hawaii, specifically to the Big Island, Kona side, come on one of my Big Island UFO tours where you'll see the night sky in a whole new way using my Advanced Generation 3 military night vision goggles. And more information is on that website, bigislandUFOtours.com. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Robin on. Hello, Robin.
Hey, Lisa, how are you?
I am great. So let me introduce you to the world here. We're going to have a really fun conversation. So Robin Thomas is a spiritual teacher, happiness coach, healer, and founder of Phoenix Rising Healings, Fierce Happy Women Coaching. She's also a lead teacher and coach of the Rhys Institute of Energy Medicine. She's a self-help personal transformation junkie and enjoys collecting certificates and degrees. Robin is passionate, enthusiastic, playful, and deeply irreverent, habitually giving her own guides a run for their money. She's also a contributing author to the anthology Joy on Demand, Choose Healthy Habitual Happiness. She believes wholeheartedly in the value of play and fervently enjoys calling forth playmates willing to dive deep into what it means to be fully alive. Well, everyone probably wants to be your friend, right?
Kind of. I mean, the question I get all the time is, "Are you always this happy?" And I'm like, usually, yeah. This is kind of. I mean, I have dark moments, but yeah, no. Yes, everybody wants to be my friend because this is pretty much what you see is what you get all the time.
Okay. I mean, just because even in the bio, it's fun, like it's energetic. So not the standard boring bio, kind of like mine. Maybe I need to change that. Well, so before we dive into conversation, because there's all sorts of fun stuff that I think we're going to be talking about, but I would love for you to share with the audience kind of how you grew up. So just to give us background on how you got into being a spiritual teacher. Spiritual, religious, something else?
Well, yeah. So I grew up. I'm one of those rare breeds. I grew up pagan, actually. My
Okay.
mom was studying witchcraft and law of attraction, and she was studying in the. I mean, before anybody in the 70s, she was doing Edgar Casey's Search for God, and she was like in this profound. And then in the 80s, when I was growing up, she was studying with Laurie Cabot, who was a famous witch in Salem. So like I grew up with these pagan roots. She also exposed me to kind of every religion that was out there. And
Okay.
I'm so grateful for that because I got this like foundation in spirituality. It wasn't necessarily based in religion, so I don't have to like recover from some organized religion, but I
Right.
I got to explore what spirituality really meant. And that was the foundation. That was so I was practicing in my like late teens. I was doing circles and whatever in college. So that's always been my thing. And then in my early 20s, I was now starting to do personal work. I was starting to understand energy medicine. I was starting to understand that there's more to this than I thought there was. So
Mm,
I mean, that's been my entire adult life. That's been 25 years now. So it's like I've never not had this as a basis.
okay. Well, very interesting. So did you always have this as your career, or was there some kind of transition?
Yeah, no, my career was as an occupational therapist. I was an
Okay.
occupational therapist for 25 years. In 2020. I mean, I've had this as a side gig since I mean, I took my first Reiki class in 2004, but I've
Okay.
had this as a side gig forever. But then in 2020, I got some very clear messaging. They were like, "No, this is the time for you." And so
Yeah.
that's the pandemic did amazing things and also terrible things and amazing things. And I made the leap in that in 2020.
Okay. Well, beautiful. And yeah, I have a similar experience in terms of the pandemic really allowing me to be like, well, how do I really want to live my life?
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
And I think
that's
it did that for a lot of people. whether or not we like to admit it, it changed. It gave people permission to start looking at what serves us versus what doesn't. And I
Yes.
think that's what's accelerated sort of some of the growth that we've seen in people waking up to be like,
Yeah,
there's gotta be something more.
absolutely. Well, so okay. So tell me, I guess, what what did you start doing first? Like, when if you're leaving your career and you've been dabbling like hobbyist, doing
Yeah, I was hobby, expensive hobby. Teaching. I was always doing coach. I was always all side gig. I always had clients, healers, healings. Um, and then in 2020, when the world shut down, I was one of the first people. I got COVID in April
okay,
7th of 2020. Right, so I was sick from the get go. Like, and then so it took me a long time to recover, and in the process, we moved. A whole bunch of stuff happened, and so I couldn't go back to work. I I. I knew for a long time I couldn't be in that. I worked in healthcare. I couldn't be in that environment anymore. My vibration just wasn't a match for it. Um,
right.
and so we moved out here and then I couldn't find a job. So the first time in my whole career, I couldn't find a job. And I was like, okay, what are they teaching me? So I sat and I asked. I said, what am I supposed to do? And that's when I got this message that you're supposed to, this is your time. You're supposed to take the leap of faith. And I said, okay, but I need some like assurances on this. So I created my first happiness course. I think I called it a happiness intensive. And it was like
Okay.
6 or 8 weeks of a class. And I said, if this is a yes, then I'm going to sell this class out. It's going to be a no brainer. I think it wasn't even 10 hours later, the whole thing was completely sold. And I was like, message received. I got you.
It,
That's right.
it,
There was a yes. Yes.
that's like a hell yes.
Right. Exactly. There was no looking back from that.
Wow. Well, so what does it mean to be like to teach happiness and be a happiness coach?
Well, it's easier than saying let's dive into the inner shadow and child's stuff of trauma that's keeping you stuck and not living the best life that you've ever had, coach. But that's kind of what we do. I specialize in teaching people how to completely make peace with who they are as a complete whole being. Like
Mm,
there's nothing wrong, there's nothing broken, there's nothing to fix. And so I mean, I spent the first almost 40 years of my life, just tell me what's wrong with me. This is why I have an alphabet of degrees after my name, right? Just tell me
okay.
what's wrong with me. If you tell me what's wrong with me, I'll fix it. But I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And so when I finally got to this place of like, oh, maybe there really isn't anything broken in me and I'm just this spastically joyful, wildly enthusiastic, crazy person, and
Mhm,
that's okay. That's when I just was like, people need this so desperately. That's
yeah.
when I really started saying, okay, so how do I teach this? How do I share this? That's really when things turned around for me. So now I call it fierce happiness because you have to be fiercely, unapologetically willing to sit and stay sometimes in that muck
Mhm.
until you can let it go, so it's no longer running your life.
Okay. So I know people have a hard time doing that
Oh
and they
yeah.
want to escape it in various ways.
Absolutely, which is why we have the society that we have where there's so many people running from
Mhm,
feeling anything,
right.
anything.
So how, like, for people listening or watching, if they're in that kind of place where they are one of the ones that's avoiding, running away, just pretending like it's not there, what what would be maybe the first step to encourage them to stay and not avoid?
I think the very first step is even if you can ask the question, what is this here to teach me,
Mhm.
or what can I learn from this? You can that's a it's a relatively simple, innocuous question that
Yeah.
will start to provoke some introspection. I mean, Einstein is famously accredited with saying that the single biggest decision we make is whether we live in a friendly universe or a hostile one. And if we live in a friendly universe, then nothing's ever happened to you. It's
Mhm.
only ever happened for you. And
Yes.
that's a big leap for a lot of people. But if you can just start in this moment of like, okay, what is this teaching me? What is this showing me? What is this calling me to? It gives you a one, like a breath of opening that can maybe allow some stuff in.
Beautiful. Yes. And okay. So I want that to sink in for people because we really like there's so many people that are feeling victimized. They're just
Yes.
staying stuck.
Right.
And so, I mean,
You know, I know that humanity is going through this like collective dark night of our soul. Like that's we're
yeah,
in this birth canal process. The dark night is meant to bring you closer to source, spirit, the universe, God, whatever. I don't care what the word is that you use for that thing that's bigger than we are.
yeah.
That's what the dark night is designed for. It does bring up anxiety and fear and loneliness and sadness and angst and separation. I mean that's just part of the process.
Hmm.
And the only way out is through. You could look back, anybody could look back on their lives, and if this pattern has repeated itself over and over and over and over again, doing the same thing isn't gonna result in any better result. It's not gonna get you any different results. It's just
No,
gonna have more and more drastic consequences. So can you just maybe begin to let in that there's possibility of another way? Just be open to what's possible. It just gives you just enough breathing space so that over time you can end up in Hawaii, which is
hmm,
the happiest state in the country. But or maybe now it's not so much, but in general,
right.
and it's like, can we have gratitude for what is?
Hmm.
Gratitude's a big deal process. What's
Yes.
going right? What can we look at that's going right? I don't care if it's that you didn't get bit by the dog today. And in my dark night, I would say, I'm glad I didn't get bit by the dog and I didn't have a dog. Like I really tried so hard to just meet myself with as much sympathy and compassion as I could. And that's, I think, what the first step is: sympathy, compassion. Like, just, hey, let's pretend everything's okay. If that were true, what would that look like?
Right. Okay. So besides being this happiness coach, I mean, you're a healer, you're doing
Yes.
energy medicine. So can you tell, I'm not familiar with the Rhys Thomas Institute of Energy Medicine. So,
So Rhys is a really brilliant man, and he has a system of energy profiles, soul profiles that, when I looked back, is the exact same as my master's thesis. It was the exact same system that I created. I don't know. I got my master's in 2001 or 2, and he hit his. I don't know when he created his profiles about 20 years ago. We created them the same at the same time. We just didn't. I didn't meet him until 2014. So like it's a system of energy that just it gives us a reference point for how our soul operates. Um, and so he calls it a mystery school. I don't know that it's exactly a mystery school, but it is a self-mastery energy healing program. It's a 3-year intensive program. So it's a really amazing program. And that was kind of life-changing.
mhm,
Because by the time I got to Reese, I had already done 15 years of personal development at that point.
okay,
And I sat in a meditation and I was all angry and frustrated. And my guides came in and were like, "Are you ready to stop talking about being a healer and start actually being a healer?" And I was like, "Yes, okay." So it was life changing. And so it's a the method he teaches is one thing. The healings that we learned are next level healings, and they changed my whole energy practice. They really expanded what I was capable of before that.
okay. So can you give me just a couple of examples of some feelings?
Yeah, so I mean, I teach in his school now, and I don't necessarily follow his methods exact because I have some of my own stuff now. Um,
Okay.
but one of the healings that was again profound was what's called a energetic regression healing, which again I got downloaded to me about the same time that he created it. So he and I like share more than just a last name, but so it's we take you back through your whole life and look at all of the maybe places where there's some trauma, big T trauma or little T trauma. Like anytime someone told you who you are is not okay, creates a little T trauma. Right? Think about how many thousands of those happen. So
Right.
we go back through and we sort of unwind. I see them as like knots of energy. and we go back through your life and unwind those knots. And what we're doing is pulling out all of the places where that energy is still screaming for your attention and calling things to you that keep reinforcing that pattern, because the universe, right, works on vibration. It's
Right.
physics. That's it. So unwinding those knots, you're now not screaming for succor, for salvation, something. And you can go back to before that happened. And you
Mhm.
can go, in fact, I take my clients all the way out into the soul plane, where they get to actually feel what it's like to be totally connected and totally loved and cherished and never separate and never broken. And we
Mhm.
bring that energy all the way through, so we access their Akashic records, so we can see their contracts, we can see how this was part of their soul's journey all the way through. So it really does change their energy frequency, and it's like profound. And again, it came downloaded to me, and then I learned further techniques with Rhys, and it like solidified into this amazing thing that we do.
Okay. That is pretty amazing. So when you said an energetic regression, so is it actually like doing a hypnosis kind of thing?
It's sort of kind of like that, although I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm hypnotizing my clients, because they're fully aware, right?
Okay.
And in fact, it's just a matter of listening to what their energy is, when it shifts, and how, like, I hold space for them. I hold
Mhm.
space for them to go back in time to be the thing that they needed when they were powerless.
Yeah.
And so it's as if, and I believe that eventually we'll be able to prove that in the moments when we were in our darkest places, there's a higher self that comes to us. I actually believe it's us in future coming backwards. And this is that healing that sort of is a piece of that, I think.
Hmm. Okay. Very interesting. Okay. So there's just so much there.
I'm sorry. Can I help you with that?
So much. Okay. So I'm going to just switch gears a little bit
Sure.
because it's not in your bio, but I did ask you before we got on about your galactic connection. And so just, I do need to ask
Of
because
course.
you have connection. And so you mentioned that you channel, and I'm curious, when did the channeling start and who do you channel? And tell me about all that.
I could, if I look back, I can tell you the channeling started a long time ago, but I
Mhm.
didn't have words for it or a reference point for it. Like, I can tell you, like, when this healing came in, when I would know exactly what to say to my clients to help them move forward, when I would know exactly what age to stop at, right? That I could have no possible way of knowing these things. I know that was coming from someplace. It wasn't until, I was maybe 2 years ago. I went to my psychic, my healer, my person, and she did a soul reading, and she said to me, "Have you ever thought about channeling?" And I was like, "No, I'm not a channel. What? No, I'm just me. I'm just Robert." Right. So I really was like, and it sent me into a little bit of a tailspin for a little while, and I was like, "Nope." So I kind of shut it off. Um, and then I was sitting one night, and I was journaling, and I was like, okay, let's see what's here. And I started actually writing some questions and getting the answers. And that was, again, that was about 2 years ago. And
Mhm.
I've been just cultivating that since. Um,
Mhm.
but and I will also say to you that in since this year, I've been like, I went from like a satellite dish to like
Mhm.
a fiber optic cable, right? It's like it has like really gotten finite and very specific. They call themselves the Council of Light, and they have a Council of Light, and I don't know, are they two separate councils? Sometimes they're together. It is both Arcturian and Pleiadian, and they come in together and separate sometimes.
Okay.
Um, and I can see that I can actually see that there's a panel of them, and I
Mhm.
interact with whoever happens. Like, there's a panel of three, but then there's also a larger panel that pops in and out and sort of pipes up every once in a while.
Okay.
Um, and they're somewhere between 12th and 15th level dimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
And they are very specific in what they want to teach, how they want to share, what the messages are that they want to bring to humanity. And they have told me over and over and over again, it's because it's time. They want us, they keep saying that information has to get out because it can't get lost.
Yes. Okay. Well, and so actually I started channeling in 2022, and Arcturians were the primary group that came through first.
Hmm.
And now since then I've had 12 other groups. But so I'm curious for you, just, channel to channel, like when you have your Arcturians versus the Pleiadian councils, do they feel different? Are you just seeing them as different?
No,
Like,
they feel different. So the Arcturians are they have a, I don't want to say masculine energy, but they have a very direct to doing energy, right? There's like a this is this. There isn't always the warm fuzzy that comes from the Arcturians. The Pleiadians are much more softer, and circumspect sometimes. Like they're not as like direct and focused, which I think is, I hold both energies totally and within me. So I
yeah,
think that's why I have both councils, because I needed both to, that's how they helped me integrate both of my halves.
okay, that makes sense. And so then when they're coming together as the councils, then what does that feel like?
It feels like a yin yang. It feels
Okay.
like it feels like a totally perfectly yin yang symbol. If it feels so perfectly balanced and
Hmm.
perfectly in alignment with each other that it just feels like right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and do you, like, when you decide that you're going to channel, or do they decide for you that you're channeling? Sometimes,
Sometimes it's both.
yeah, sometimes I'm getting the picture, like, we need to come through now.
Right, like,
And
sometimes they tap me on my ear, right? I hear it, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm listening." Um, Normally, I call them. Normally, because like I said, I've been working really much with, like, opening and really closing my channel, so it's getting to be really, really, really specific. But when
Mhm.
I call them, I call both. I'll say the councils of light. Um, so I either call them by name, or I just call them the councils of light, and they come through. So by doing that, leaving it sort of open ended, a couple of times I've had even some of the Marians come in, and one time there was a mantis being, and I was like, I'm not actually okay. It was like interesting. Um,
I
so
love Mantis, by the way.
yes,
I love.
yes, but there was like, I was totally like not prepared for it, and I got a little like right, but
Yeah,
because that was totally different energy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so, and you mentioned Lemuria. So I'm in Hawaii, which is part of lost continent of Lemuria.
Yep.
Very Lemurian energy here. So, okay. And again, just curiosity question. So how does the Lemurian energy feel different than the councils?
It's
Or,
more diffuse. It's more it wasn't like, so it came through when I was doing a meditation to connect my heart to the heart of Mother Earth.
mm,
So it came in with that connection to Mother Earth in the way that my councils didn't. Um
that makes sense.
yeah, right. So it was more it was more collective. It was more like from from Mother Earth, and like they were showing me like this, like that Mother Earth is a cosmic Dropbox. Like we can all access her energy because all of their wisdom is stored in her.
Mhm. Okay. Well, so let's talk about the messaging that is coming through, because, and I'm curious. So, when you're getting the messages, are you writing it down? Are you speaking it vocally? Are you doing it for clients? Like, what's.
I have a membership site, so I do a channeled monthly reading for my membership site once a
Mhm.
month. And in that one, it's just what's coming up for the month. What am I excuse me, people need to know, and what would you like to teach them, or what would you like to create? So it's almost always spoken, because I'm a talker.
Okay.
um right? I tried writing and my head got in the way too much. And I tried writing with my left hand and all that stuff that none of it worked. My head was censoring too much. But when I speak it, I don't have time to
Mhm.
censor it. And I get to actually, I either see the pictures or they give me like some like pop culture reference that I can then interpret, and they tweak it if I say it. And they're like, no, no. Because one time I said there's an urgency and they were like, it's not urgency. That's a human emotion. And I was like, right. So they correct me in real time when I'm speaking.
Okay.
And I just started doing this channeled reading with my clients, although I've always been doing it when I'm healing, or it's always
Yeah.
been there. It's just not been a specific thing I do until just
Right.
recently.
Okay. Well, so that because there are different levels in terms of the, I guess, amount of trance or not that one is in during the
Right.
channeling process. So for you, then you're speaking as Robin, interpreting what they're telling you, or are you letting them speak directly through you?
They have never wanted to speak directly through me.
Okay.
Um, I don't I don't know why, and they don't necessarily actually tell me why. What was really important is when I first joined the council, I had to put my sword down. There was a moment where they said, "Are you willing to put your sword down in order to join with us?"
Hmm.
Because I've been a warrior. I have a warrior spirit. I've always had a flaming sword.
Okay.
And that what they were showing me is you've done enough. You don't need the flaming sword anymore.
Mhm.
Are you willing to put it down, even if it means you don't get credit for what you're doing? And there was a moment I was like, oh, um,
Mhm.
let me think about it. So I did say yes eventually, and then I got COVID. It was my initiation. But because of that, I think there's a free will aspect that they're going to speak to me, not necessarily as me.
Okay.
Does that make
Well,
sense?
yeah. Oh, it totally does because there are channelers like Elizabeth April
Sure.
who speaks for them. She'll get the visions and whatever. But
And Magenta, I don't know. Do you know Magenta Pixie? She works with um she works with an astrologer,
okay,
Pam Gregory. She works with Pam Gregory a lot, and she just speaks. They speak through her,
okay,
but that's
because
not what these guys do.
yeah, mine speak through me, and so based on the like higher dimensional level that your collectives are saying that they are from, my as soon as you said that they're not speaking through you, I've based on my experiences with actually having that energy come through my body, it's because it really taxes the body,
Exactly.
that high energy level. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they just either they know I'm not ready for it, or I couldn't handle it, or that would flip me out a little bit. I think to not have that kind of control. I think they recognize that would not work for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So it's all people. And why I
yeah,
want to have that, bring this up is because there are people who are watching or listening that maybe aren't as familiar with the different styles of channeling.
sure.
And and when people are being artistic, when you're being creative, you are channeling.
Absolutely. Like we are all channels. Like it's not just some special gift that a handful of us have. We all have this ability to do it,
Yes.
which is why it's so important to clear out our stuff. This is why the work I do, because you can't if you're not clear, you're not going to recognize that it's what's coming through.
Right. And it's not scary either. So
Exactly. Exactly.
because I know
Exactly.
some people are like, oh my God, I'm going to be possessed, or and it's not like that
It's
at
the
all.
opposite of that. Like it feels so I've never felt so loved and held and supported as I do when I'm in out with my soul family and out with the councils. Like it never feels anything other. It's not the lack of judgment. Judgment doesn't
It
exist.
doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just pure love and
Absolutely.
unity. Yeah,
Hmm.
I love this. Okay, so that's why I wanted to go there. Now, okay, so because I'm curious, because my Arcturians, they have very clear messaging that they are trying to get out into the world,
Hmm.
and the other ones too. And I totally resonate with what you're saying about the energy. Like the Pleiadians, I always identify with like the divine feminine, that
Yes.
harmonious kind of community.
Right.
And yeah, where the Arcturians, they are, at least through me, like a lot more direct.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like,
Exactly.
this is how it is. And so I'm curious, like, what are they sharing with you to share with your people for the
um,
world now?
so what they've told me over and over again is the most recent message was um, that civilization may fall, and that's all part of the whole process.
Okay.
But what's not falling is the wisdom. Like, we're not losing the wisdom this time. It's not the dark ages again. And also they're telling me all of our 3D trauma isn't coming. It can't come with us into 5D anymore. So this is why it's so crucial that we do our work, because we're at it. Not that we're out of time, but we don't have a, you're either going to come with us or get pulled over in this tsunami. Like, there's no, we don't have a choice anymore. We always have a choice, but it's a bigger deal, and it's going to be more painful the further along we go that you don't do your work. So that's what they've been showing me very, very clearly, that it's not coming with us. And so we're upgrading, we're connected, we're all one, and you either do your work or get bowled over. Those are your two choices these days. So it's like we have a moral obligation, and those of us who are healers and light workers, because those are the people that I really work with the most, is they're being called now in droves, in
Yeah.
waves and waves and waves, because what they say is the world needs your light. And that's kind of my tagline. That's my message, is the world really needs your light. It is so that we can help so many of the people who are still in the darkness find a way.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of those messages, and the big one is rest when you can, because it's not like you get a chance to rest much. So it's like, rest when you can.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so let's unpack some of that,
Okay, sure.
because some people are going to be like, well, how do I know if I'm on the right track for moving to 5D, if I'm doing the work or not? Because some people, they think that they're doing the work, and we can observe them and we're like, are you? Without judgment.
Right, exactly.
There is no right or wrong in this. And I do want to say that too. Like, there's no judgment, no right or wrong in what, if someone is still asleep or they're still in the darkness,
Yeah.
and everyone eventually will shift. It's
Right.
just,
It's all love. It's all love. I mean, you can look at anything in the world. It's maybe the shadow of love, but it's still love. It's still like,
yeah,
you just because you're um just because the light's not on doesn't mean the electricity isn't there, right? It's the same energy. So whether someone's awake or not awake or on their path, or it you're on the path when it feels right. I mean, it
yeah.
feels messy and challenging and whatever, but you're doing the work because you feel like there's some greater purpose
Mm.
calling me forward,
Yes.
right?
Well, and one of the things that I love, that you wrote in your bio is like being like playful and having fun. And that's one of the things that my Arcturians constantly are reminding me, but also my people, is, follow your passion, be in a state of
Yes.
joy. And when you do that, then you are shifting, you are growing, evolving. And yeah,
Absolutely. And in fact, one of the things I just learned actually was how to just shift your frequency with, you can set your intention to connect with your super conscious, your unconscious, whatever it is, and you can just set your attention and be like, okay, what do I need in this moment? And you can shift your frequency in the moment. So it's like, and laughter and playfulness are the highest vibrations,
yes,
right? So
right.
yeah.
So, okay, so if people are feeling again like, well, oh my God, the world's falling apart, and
Yeah.
they're buying into the fear that is so prevalent. I mean, as a coach, what do you tell people?
I actually tell my clients to say to that voice inside of their head, give it permission to be right. Just be like, yeah, you're totally right. It takes the sting out of it. It takes the because it takes the, like, air out of it. It's like, wait,
Yeah,
what? I'm right? You're totally right. It is falling. It's scary and overwhelming right now, and I totally get it. But like you can have that sort of higher perspective. Yeah, it is. That's actually true. Our first chakras are under construction. That means the first chakra in the world, which is the root, which is the physical world, is under construction. It's collapsing. That's true.
Mhm.
So if you tell that voice inside of you that yes, it's true, now it's not terror like, oh my God, because it it gives it level playing field.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Did that make sense? Is that,
Totally makes sense to
I know
me.
you, but do you think it makes sense to your
I
listeners?
think so. I think so. The other thing that they are always reminding me, which I know this from the quantum realm, and I know this from my original like spiritual teacher that I grew up with, of that all timelines exist simultaneously. So which timeline do you want to be a part of?
Exactly.
And so yeah, you have full choice. You have free will in what
Absolutely.
you are experiencing.
And what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
If you're fighting against feeling something, just see if you can just allow it to just allow yourself to feel it for like 10 seconds.
Hmm.
It's like, do you ever watch a little kid when they get their like they get their feelings hurt or whatever? They cry their hearts out for like a minute, and then they're done and they're totally back to playful.
Yeah.
We're sort of the universe. My guides, the universe thinks of us as like small children all of the time. So I've just started talking to myself, and then I start teaching my clients how to just talk to themselves like they're 5. Wow, it's totally okay. I know you're scared. I get it. I get it. It's okay. Right? You talk to this, then there's no you cry your heart out. Great. Now let's go have ice cream. Like it gets to be simple. And you're right. You get to choose.
Hmm.
Do you want to pick it up or not?
Yeah. So, okay. As far as now we're shifting into 2024,
Mm-hmm.
right? We so we were recording this before that. However, we've got this new kind of energy that we're coming into. Are there any, have they given you any indication of things that are coming up that people might need to be aware of? And if not, that's totally fine.
Yeah. They don't usually let me see so far ahead. I've gotten like an overview. I've gotten a broad strokes picture of like 2025, 2026 is when we actually start to actually feel some of the, it's not going to feel so angsty.
Okay.
It's actually going to feel, we're going to feel like we've made a difference. In the on the June solstice that we just had, we tapped the number of consciousness beings we needed we tapped the tipping point. We can't sustain it. So in 2024 is when we're going to see more of us waking up and more people getting on their path, in
Okay.
like totally strange ways, right? But it's going to actually feel less scary than the shifting grounds. That what they showed me at the beginning of 2023 is we're on shifting sands. There's nothing, no ground to stand on, which is why people are so terrified. Um,
Yeah.
that levels out a little bit for 2024 so that we
Okay.
actually feel like maybe we're on a plank on shifting sand.
Okay. In 25, then we're a little.
Exactly. Once we hit 25 and like 26, now we can actually be like, oh, we can exhale. But like it's because it's been, well, I mean, this has been since, I mean, it's been ongoing, but like we've been in this like terror place since like 15, right? So it was a 10-year span of time that we had to go through.
Okay. Very interesting. And so when you're getting this information from them, is it coming through clairvoyance, clairaudience? Like how are you receiving the messages?
Almost always it's a voice. There's a voice in my head, and I've learned again to distinguish that it's not just my voice.
Yeah.
I had to learn that one really deeply, so I had to do the early part of my work was gremlin work because I had to learn what was my voice, what versus what was not my voice.
Gremlin work? What's gremlin?
Gremlin is the nasty little voice in your head that keeps you stuck, small, safe, not doing what you should. Like keeps you telling you why what you do is not okay, or what you did wasn't in time. Anything you do is not good enough or better. It's like that nasty, awful critic,
Okay.
right? People call it a whole bunch of different things. It could be the ego, could be the small self, could be whatever you want to call it. I call it a gremlin because it makes it easier to like never feed it after midnight and don't get it wet and don't expose it to sunlight. It actually gives it a little bit of playfulness to it.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So what what else would you like to share with the audience? Like, what do you feel you want people to know about you, your work, anything else?
Uh, what I want people to know is really, 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 truly that the world needs your light. Like, there is not a single thing or person or activity or anything on the planet that's not by design. There is a grand cosmic plan. Yes, humans have messed things up because of free will a lot. And also there's still a grand plan. And the same God that created rainbows and mountains and sunsets decided we needed a Dr. Lisa and a Robin and a you for a reason. And so your job is to just figure out what the reason is and shine as unapologetically as possible, because I can't say it strongly enough. The world needs your light, period.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, again, we were talking about the shift of 2023 and so many more people coming out of the woodworks,
Yes. Yes.
stepping into their spiritual power and being more visible.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, so, you know, it's not time to play small.
No. And in fact, doing so is like a big middle finger to God. Like, it's like a big F you to be like, yeah, you gave me all these amazing gifts and whatever, but I'm gonna play small and you do you. I'm gonna stay over here. I don't get involved. Like, it's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So, so people listening or watching, they're probably wondering, okay, how do you work with your clients? Like, what are the different options of work that you can do with people?
so I work, I mean, I love working one-on-one with clients. I mean, I really do. I love when we can get into it and we can really, like, I can show you that what that thing is that you're so afraid of isn't as bad as you think it is. And in fact, it's making you who you are and making you stronger. So I love working one-on-one with clients. And I also understand that that's not necessarily always accessible for people. I do try to keep my prices as accessible as I can, and also I have to live. So I have a Facebook group where I do a Mondays with Robin every Monday, and I teach and I share. It's totally free. Anybody can join. I offer things there. I have classes. By January, I have a chakras class that I teach. And this year I'm changing it. It's going to be modular. So we'll have like 6 weeks, a break, 6 weeks, a break. And it's all about chakras and who are you in that chakra? And then
Hmm,
who are you supposed to be in that chakra? And what is there a dissonance,
okay.
or right? And how do you reconcile that? So it's really like, what are the things that rules that you were supposed to play by, and did you or did you not? So like, at first chakra, it's like, what is the role of being woman in the society, or a man?
Mhm.
um what's your physical stature, right? What's your body image? All of those first chakra stuff. Then second chakra, we get into sensuality and sexuality and emotions and passion, and like, what does it mean to be a woman or a man in your second chakra? And so each level is a level of consciousness. I don't It's not even just a part of you, it's a level of consciousness. And at the end of that, you've unpacked and unwound all the things that held you back, so you can have a real true relationship with yourself. So that's a group coaching program. And like I said, what we've done up to this point is go October to May with no breaks. But this time we're going to break it up a little bit so people can come and go as it fits them. Um,
Okay.
I do workshops, I do retreats. I'll probably have another retreat in the springtime. By the time they get this, I'll probably be in the throes of planning for a retreat for probably the spring equinox again. Um,
What kind of retreats do you do?
it's a 3 or 4 day deep dive into personal, who are you, shadow work, gremlin work, really showing up as yourself, creating a tribe. Can you be vulnerable in a tribe like this? Can the tribe hold space for you? Can you have this like true deep intimacy, both with yourself and with someone else, so that you can really either take the next step or the first step in your journey, and like really, who are you? Who are you? And what are your amazingness that the world needs in a group of people that also love and see you as totally for who you are.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my
Okay.
God, magic happens at retreats.
I retreats too. I love
Yes.
bringing people together. Well, so, and where do you do the retreats? Because I know you're in Boston.
I
But
am in Boston, and so up until I mean, I actually I have one in September, but I think it's not the right. It's something tells me it's not the right time. So I have been doing them at a place that's north of Boston in Massachusetts. I'm kind of open to traveling. I do have at some point I'm going to do one in Sedona. I think I need a. They keep saying me not yet, but at some point I'm gonna get to Sedona. But I see this mission as like, I want to travel and do this work. I'll come to you. Like, I really want to travel and teach and speak at places and create retreats in wherever there happens to be a group for it.
right.
Right. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, beautiful. And so the work that you do one-on-one with clients, I'm assuming that can be done remotely.
Yeah, I work almost exclusively remotely. I work either via Zoom or by phone, because some people don't want to ugly cry in front of me. So the phone sometimes gives a level of anonymity. In my coaching agreement, it says, please bring tissues, because we're gonna do the stuff. You need to clear stuff out.
Yeah, I love that. Everyone needs a good ugly cry every
Absolutely.
so often.
It is the most cathartic thing, aside from an orgasm. It is the most cathartic thing you can do. Do
Yeah,
both. It's
yeah,
amazing.
I love it. Well, so you mentioned your Facebook group, but where can people find you? What's your website? And
My
what?
website is phoenix-rising-healings with an S.com. If you forget the dashes, you just type in Phoenix Rising Healings. As long as the S is in there, you'll find me. There's a very long story as to why it has to have the dashes. It has to do with my neurodivergence forgot to renew at one point the domain Phoenix Rising Healings. And when I went back and looked at it, I was like, shit. So I got as close as I can.
Yeah.
That has everything. My Facebook group, Fierce Happy Women. I also have Phoenix Rising Healings on Facebook. I'm kind of all over. I'm all over social, but it's Healings with an S. If you do that, you'll find, or type Robin Thomas. Actually, I've gotten to the place where if you type Robin Thomas and healer or Phoenix Rising, I come up.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to share in our last moment together? Any other words of wisdom that maybe is coming through from the collective? You've already shared. Amazing.
I think just really, like, the world needs your light and rest. Like, there's the light workers work right now. It doesn't end. It actually, people go, when does it end? And I'm like, it doesn't. So as light workers, as healers, as beings, we have to, first of all, we need a tribe. We cannot do this work alone. We cannot do this work alone. We need a tribe. And we need coaches and healers and teachers who can both hold us to a different vibration and allow us to rest. Like, we need to just have support.
Beautiful. And I think too many people are just go, go, go and don't
Right.
do that for themselves. So
Exactly.
yes. Well, and that's one of the beauties of living here in Hawaii and living only 10 minutes from the beach is
Right. Exactly.
that's my rest grounding place.
And it's sort of built into, I mean, maybe not, but it's built into your culture a little bit better than it is in Massachusetts.
and back in Olympia, yeah, I did not rest enough. So, well, Robin, it has been a pleasure to have you on, and I can't wait to see what else is going to unfold as you're moving along. And just thank you for your light and being here in the world to help people through this as well.
Thank you. It really has been a pleasure.
Yeah. And for those watching or listening, thank you so much for being here with us. And I'll see you next time on Connection to the Cosmos. Aloha.